Born in Boston of the Massachusetts Bay Colony on January 17, 1706, Benjamin Franklin was raised as the youngest son of 17 children. His father, Josiah, a candlemaker, removed Franklin from the Boston Latin School, where he excelled as a talented pupil, to employ him as an apprentice at the age of 10. Aware of the dissatisfaction with which Franklin found himself as his apprentice, Josiah opted to place his son under the influence of his elder brother James, who ran a print shop. Franklin enjoyed the work immensely, despite the grueling work of setting type and composing pamphlets under time constraints. When James denied him the opportunity to write for his newspaper, the New England Courant, Franklin promptly decided to adopt a pseudonym, Mrs. Silence Dogood, an elderly widow. As Silence Dogood, Franklin offered advice and expressed concern about the mistreatment of women. Following the publication of 16 letters and an excited response from the paper's readership, Franklin admitted to his brother that he had written the letters. Furious, James delivered harsh beatings. Franklin ran away to New York and later to Philadelphia at the age of 17. Upon arriving in Philadelphia, Franklin found work as an apprentice to a printer. Impressed with his work, the colony's governor offered Franklin the opportunity to set up an independent business if Franklin agreed to go to London to retrieve printing materials. Franklin stayed in London for months, learning about the printing business. After his return, Franklin, without the governor's promise fulfilled, chose to become a helper to a printer, though he soon borrowed money to establish his own printing business. In 1727, he organized the Junto, a young working man's group dedicated to self and civic improvement. Franklin believed individual betterment would by extension enhance the community at large through an invested interest in intellectual endeavors. By the age of 30, Franklin was publishing the widely distributed and highly successful Pennsylvania Gazette. Franklin's Pennsylvania Gazette was filled not only with short news items and reports on public events, but also with amusing essays and letters from readers, much of it written under pseudonyms by Franklin himself. In this newspaper, Franklin published the first political cartoon in history, the infamous Join or Die image. Franklin handled most of the colony's printing business, becoming Pennsylvania's first postmaster general. Franklin's issuing of the annually produced Poor Richard's Almanac secured his wealth, allowing him to retire at the age of 42. In the 1750s, Franklin began to focus more on politics, becoming the Pennsylvania representative to England in 1757. Franklin remained in England until 1775. Early in his time abroad, Franklin considered himself a loyal Englishman, though his views began to change in response to the overwhelming opposition of the colonists to the 1765 Stamp Act. Franklin convinced the English Parliament to repeal the law the following year. Throughout the ordeal, Franklin developed ideas of colonial independence from England, becoming an instrumental part in the colony's argument against unwarranted taxation. Upon his return from Europe, he quickly immersed himself on the side of the revolutionaries and became a member of the Second Continental Congress. Franklin was later assigned to an exclusive 5-member committee to formulate the Declaration of Independence, and he was named the first president of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Franklin was sent to France in 1777 to discuss an alliance that was confirmed the next year. In 1785, Franklin returned to the United States, labeling himself as a nationalist who believed that only a completely unified series of 13 states could survive as a new country. He was elected to the 1787 Constitutional Convention, and he signed the Constitution. A noted polymath, Franklin also held an international status as a man of science and inventor, creating, but never patenting, the lightning rod, the Franklin stove, and bifocals, among other inventions. As an innovator of modern technological advances, Franklin was ahead of his time, studying and developing theories that would be used in efficient home heating and in refrigeration. He also became president of the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society, an appointment made decades before the slavery debate began to plague domestic politics. As a founding father, Benjamin Franklin presented ethical philosophies and theories that shaped the nation's earliest documents and their application in government. His value of intelligence and of integrity resulted in the founding of the American Philosophical Society and in the establishment of the College of Philadelphia, which is today known as the University of Pennsylvania. As a civic leader, Franklin instituted the first public hospital, the first lending library, and the first fire department, displaying a genuine concern for the progress of humans and for the efficiency of interaction and of knowledge. His autobiography, which he wrote in French, was published in 1791, about a year after his death on April 17, 1790. In it, Franklin described his humble beginnings and relayed his 13 virtues, demonstrating the model of self-improvement that he had become in the egalitarian atmosphere of the early American Republic, wisely guiding the infant nation in its formative years. Although Franklin excelled as a businessman, scientist, diplomat, and inventor, he considered himself, first and foremost, a printer and publisher. As head of the Pennsylvania Gazette, Franklin established a style of journalism that became the foundation for modern American news coverage. As a journalist, Franklin not only wrote and delivered the news, but he also made the news. Franklin articulated this best in an edition of Poor Richard's Almanac. If you would not be forgotten, as soon as you are dead and rotten, either write things worth reading or do things worth writing.